Welcome to day 5 of Masters of the Genius Universe. Yeah, we're speeding right along here. And the energy's pretty powerful, and we're doing some amazing things. You can feel the collective building and growing and connecting, and it's just wonderful. I'm loving every second of it. So, really good. So far we've covered, I wrote it down. The first video was what is mastery? The second one was how do you find your greater purpose and your role in the greater game? The third one was mastering the art of knowing. The next one was mastering the art of possibility. And so when we looked at what to do today, we thought we might do mastering the art of genius transformation and a bit of the miraculous thrown in. Yeah, how exciting. Now, I do not pretend to be a master of the miraculous. That would be Leanne in our network, and she's in Australia. And Santari sometimes too. He's really good at some of that stuff. But there are things where the miraculous happens for me, where I'm able to create that with others. And I would say that's part of genius transformation. It's at the height of genius transformation. It pops into almost what would look like the miraculous. So we're going to work our way through genius transformation and lead our way into the miraculous.
Yes, we are.
Santari, for you, anything around that?
Well, I think it might be good to have some sort of definition about the miraculous. We're not talking about walking on water here. I think you're looking at what wants to happen and setting up the circumstances for that to happen, and not being too surprised at the outcome.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think for me, genius transformation, now that I'm pretty miraculous at. I can stand in the face of people or circumstances or a planet or a universe and cause transformation to happen. Not just consciousness, not just energetics. There are a whole variety of ways in which I can do that. But I think at the core of it, well, you're talking about let's define it first. So genius transformation to me is you have something that's in a particular state of itself. It could be at a stuck state. It could be at an okay state. And suddenly that state just opens up and becomes a different state, whether that's a state of being or a state of potential or possibility or circumstance or whatever. And how you occur as the one creating the transformation, I think there's a beautiful way towards that I can share how I do that. Maybe you can share how you do that, Santari, and then we'll get others to share on the Facebook group as well. But I think for me, transformation isn't just cocoon to the butterfly. Like, to me, the butterfly was already going to happen. It was already built into the DNA of the cocoon and the larva, and it was going to become that anyway. So that is transformation, but not the kind of transformation I'm talking about. The kind of transformation I'm talking about is it probably wasn't going to be that anyways. It probably was sitting in the field of possibility for them, but wasn't necessarily going to get realized. And I think the art of genius transformation is stepping up to the plate, if I can use a baseball analogy. So you step up to the home plate, and you know how to turn that out into its most spectacular transformation. So we're going to talk about how we do that, a variety of ways to do that, and then lead ourselves into the miraculous. So that would be, for me, the definition of genius transformation. Santari, for you?
I think there's different ways we could define what it is. I like what you said. I also remember the things that have happened in my life where you just literally become a different being, and sometimes that's caused because you stand for something that wasn't in the realm of possibility of your current life, and you put that aside, what you were at work on, and you go for something that in your eyes is something greater, something much more that calls to you, that has a profound change in your life circumstance. And that to me is what is a transformation of the type that we're talking about. You no longer are who you were. You quite literally change your knowing of yourself. The energy is different. You feel different about who you are. And it's like a new era of life starts to open up because you are then drawn into meeting with people who are on that wavelength. So if we can define it in those terms, it's like changing wavelengths sometimes. You know, something spectacular is about to happen because you've set yourself on that particular path.
So you're talking about transforming yourself.
Transforming yourself, but in a sense also transforming the possibility of something to occur because you're standing for it,
Mm-hmm.
because it has an entry point, if you like, into the world of reality of which you're a part of. And I think it comes back to how do you see yourself being presented in this world, not just as a particular being who has ideas about I'm going to do this, this, and this, but somehow this intelligence, this creative force of life, this miraculous power to change people's lives. And when you become that, then all sorts of different things start to occur because you are set to allow that to happen.
Yeah. I think you're probably fundamentally talking about what I would refer to as the state of being in which genius transformation occurs. For me, I have to supersede myself in order to do that. That I guess it's a way in which I would say that. And what does that mean, supersede myself? Once I step up to the plate for genius transformation, I can no longer see the world as I, as an individual, would have seen it before that moment. I have to take on a different gaze, a different stance, a different come from place for the possibility that's waiting to happen. I have to stand in the core of the power of being, not just my being, the core of the power of all being. And from there, I have to pull up the energy, the resources, the consciousness, the whatever, the power. I think I'm calling up the power to transform that thing into something more that it wants to become. Even if it doesn't, it or they don't know it wants to become that yet. I might have a sense of it. I might not know what it is they're becoming, but I will know there's something to come into. And I think I know that when you stand in the full power of the core of being, of all being, and you connect with someone else or another circumstance or a planet or, universe, whatever, if there's a resistance to something more, you feel that resistance instantly. It's like fields meeting fields. And if there's a resistance in the other field, and I can usually suss the resistance immediately to say, is that the kind of resistance that says, don't you dare do this with me, or no, this isn't the time to do it, or no, this isn't the right thing to do. And I have to know what of all those is, because if it's them saying, no, you can't do that with me, I can work around that. I don't mean I override their free will about it or their choice about it. No, but I could have a conversation with them in consciousness that could alter that and get them more open to their transformation that's waiting to become. And I often find huge success with that. But if it's absolutely not right to do, then I've got to know that and step back and away from it immediately. The interesting thing for me, though, is I don't think I would be called, have the power of the core of being called up to me if it or they weren't ready to move. I think it would be a different state. It would be more like me coming to them, and it just wasn't quite in the power place. But the moment I'm in that, because I can tell that if I hear about a circumstance in the world or I hear a person's name, I can go immediately because the transformation bells are ringing. like calling you into the game, calling you home to play. It's kind of like that for me. So how about for you, Santari?
I would liken it to what you're saying about being in this core place of you know what to do when you're there. It's almost like you're freely available to, let's say, the power of the universe creating a new possibility for life. I'm using those terms because they're very broad-based terms. They don't have to be pinned back down to something specific.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're saying that this world can become something um, lustrous, magnificent, um, amazingly creative, then you're talking about people being amazingly creative, being magnificent, their lives being so filled with wonder and delight. And that to me is about how this works. That something that you're doing appeals to everything. It's like you can feel how the whole of creation wants to go, and how you, as this initiator of a new wave, if you like, just feels the power pulsing in you, and you dance with the wonder, and you dance with the magnificence and the excellence, and everything that is creatively powerful stirring in you is somehow aligned to all the particles and the elements that are in people, that are in plants, that are in stars. It doesn't matter what it is that you call it. Something in you is almost like dancing with everything. And so therefore it becomes easy for change to actually move itself out. Just let's say that we want to sparkle the universe. Well, how would you do that? You wouldn't think, how do I do this? Or am I powerful enough to do this? Or what if some people don't want me to do this? You're not going there. You just go, if you like, into this core place, and you are filled with this delight that you know is resident in life. And it might come to be a throbbing in your fingers, a pulsing in your heart, but something in you just fills with the wonder of it. And that to me is what you do. You are filled with something that is of a transformational essence, and the power and the rhythm of that almost like percolates through all time and space, and therefore presents people with opportunities to become more gracious, to become more understanding of others, to become so wise and collaborative and compassionate that there isn't any distance between what you're doing and how they want to be now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like everything is just taken care of in the way that I see it being done.
Oh, I love that. That was amazingly sad. Yeah. I think that's what I'm talking about. I supersede myself. I was thinking back to a real, almost miraculous transformation I did for someone several years ago. Oh, a good number of years ago, 4 or 5 now. And this was someone's son, who I never met. I did it all in consciousness. He was homeless. He was not quite violent, but he was getting there. He was divorced from his wife and his son, and didn't have a good relationship with his mum. And I think he was drug addicted, if I didn't say that already. And it was like this particular time that I came to him, and I had done it before, but nothing really. It was more like getting understanding before. But this time, I superseded myself. And when I look back at it, it was almost like if God or the creator or the source of the universe could look at that being and recognize all that it was and see it in its current circumstance, that God source creator would have this huge rush of acceptance, love, compassion, understanding, and none of those words really capture, because it really is powerful. Compassion to me, in the way most people use it, isn't powerful. It's a bit sympathetic. Um, but it was like in the gaze, in the understanding, I could liberate him from his own judgment of himself, his own lostness, and I could allow him to emerge from the lost cave and become who he really was and really was meant to be. And within 2 weeks, the mother had heard from him, and he'd gone off drugs, and he was reconciling with the wife, and he had a job within a month or two. It was all just like, whoa, how did that happen? And I remember at the time, one of the things for me, and I say this often in all the teaching we do about transformation, is that I was moved to tears by it. And when you're moved to tears, something is evoked in the power of the core of being, and that power rushes up. So it's not compassion, it's more from the heart. This is a power force of acceptance. You could say love, but it's not love in any of the sense that I would really recognize love. And I almost don't think I'd put that word on it, but many of our people would put that word on it. I would say it was more like total and complete and perfect acceptance. Some could say that's unconditional love, but it didn't feel like it had anything bundled around it to me. It simply felt like the moment he was totally and perfectly accepted and completely accepted in perfection as he was, that all the dross fell away and the being emerged.
Yes.
And that to me was an example of miraculous transformation. And I have had some others like that, certainly not a lot at that level. I've had other versions of it, but when it hits, boy, it hits. And it's that emotive sense of being moved, and it comes not just from deep inside you, but from deep inside the core of the power of being. So maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. So before we do anything else for you around any of that, Santari.
Well, I was thinking perhaps we just take people on a journey so that they get to really be immersed in this feeling that we're speaking about, in this field of it, and see what emerges for themselves.
Yeah, that sounds great. So do you want them to do this on themselves, or should we have them pick a person to be with and you take them on the journey, or what do you think?
I think they decide for themselves, because the way that I plan to do that would be just perfect. It would take into account all the different circumstances.
Okay, great. So for everybody who's about to go on the journey, you just find whatever it is you want to orient to, and then let yourself flow.
Yeah. So be in this place that we call the core. This place where it is just a powerhouse of possibility. There's a limitless in its extent of what it is and where it leads to. But you know that when you're there, all things seem to thrive. There is a hum, there is a music that permeates every single part of you. And it isn't just physically based. You sense that somehow it isn't anywhere in time and space itself, but it simply is, it exists. And we know this place very well. It's almost like if creation had a place to center in, then it would be here. You would find that you're able just to simply breathe, and breathe in the power. And you are that power. And it seems to have its own sense of itself, its own language, its own understanding, its own intelligence. And really you are caught up with it so totally and completely that it isn't your thinking involved anymore. It is like everything feels liberated in your understanding about what is so, about what is possible, about what can be done next. And you don't look to see what should be done next, what is calling to you. It is just like as you breathe, so life breathes. And life is really giving you this chance to accept everything, everywhere, all possibilities of life, all understandings of life, all this that is creation, that we know of as creation. It feels like it is all in symphony with itself, that there is no part that is divided. And you may feel moved to tears. You may feel the exquisiteness of it. You may feel that you are the sun that really does illuminate all beings on all worlds. Whatever it is that you choose to see and who you choose to become, you are the power. You are this power, this magnificence. And from this place, you are so aligned with life that everything that you think of and do is imbued with that quality, that consciousness of seeing everything in its perfection, of being the beauty of life. In each and every single moment, with every single breath. And you know that being this being who sees these things, you're changing life. You're dancing with its possibilities. And it's not an individual thing. You feel that you are life itself, the foundation of all that we are achieving and all that we wish for each other. And that is all that we need to do for this moment. So, what was your sense of what was happening?
Well, it was interesting. I just kept hearing, well, several things, but I just kept hearing the same thing over and over. In our gaze, nothing can hold in its lesser form. It's like the power of that gaze, and I don't mean like an intense gaze or anything. It's more like when you can gaze from the power core of being, anything that is less than it wants to be falls away. Your gaze just drops it away from itself, so it can't hold there, which makes perfect sense to me. You know, it's not just you're raising the vibration, because that's not the intention or the energetic movement that you're doing. It's a different gaze. It is like as if you are the source creator God being who's looking at the beautiful creature that was made and seeing where it is and where it wants to become, and just freeing it to be itself somehow by the power of your gaze. I don't know. Then I stood back from the earth and I looked at it through those eyes. And I could see that, you know, usually I do it from consciousness and lift the earth up and all that, but this was different. I was standing outside the earth, beyond it, and looking at it. And it was, in the same way, all the dross was just falling away. Anything that wasn't its perfection becoming now, just wasn't there. It's beautiful.
Yep, well, that's the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to work upon single things, trying to put things right, because basically everything is right. But as you say, the looking at something in that way is such a liberating experience.
Mm. Yeah, amazing. Whew, that was beautiful. Thank you. So, if we brought this to, if you be with a person that way, if you be with a circumstance that way, if you be with the world that way, if you be with the universe that way, um, what is there to understand about that? Is it a different thing? Is it the same thing? When I come to work with a person, and I'm going to talk about doing it in consciousness at the moment, although I think it would apply to talking on the phone or being with them in person as well. But so much easier to do in consciousness because there's none of that other stuff floating around, the regular stuff. So if I go to be with a person, as you all know, you back way up. Oh my God, you are coming face to face with a master, a God being, an awesome, amazing, created creature that's just about ready to stun you with its amazing possibilities and genius. And you have to come from that place. With no exceptions, you have to come from that place. You have to create the space for them to show up into that way. And then there is the lifting of the vibration. So instead of relating to the denser them, you relate to the higher vibrational, greater being, the genius being, however we want to say it. It's the higher vibration, so you're meeting them field to field as that. And then recognizing the universe in them also helps. So when it's like breathing the wonder of the universe as them, through them, for them, with them, connected to them. And they are your opportunity to move into an ecstatic relationship with the wonder of life. And the more you can seek to do that, the more you can seek to find that wonder, that awe, that exhilaration, that being moved, the more likely it is they are going to move. It's not about doing anything in yourself, really, and yet it is in yourself that the power of being moves. Do you know what I mean? But it's not all personal inside the body. The power of being is more like, it's a space from which the power to transform comes.
I was going to say that thing about space, how important it is. Quite often we'll talk to people about how they can change the way that they're listened to by creating a space for that listening. And I think what we're also saying is you can create a transformational space simply by being in that place of, let's say, the core. And it's just simply by doing those things, those very simple things, allows people to actually make the rapid adjustments themselves, which is really to find the trueness of themselves, the trueness of their speaking, to identify with something which is so far and above where they think they are in life that they literally have to abandon the old ideas, the old knowings, because a new sense of themselves is developing. And I think that's because of this transformational space that allows people the breathing space to find themselves anew.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, what I find works the best now is I almost can't come at them like I'm the transformer and you're the transformee. Because that creates a greater than, lesser than relationship. I have to come to them like, oh my God, who are you and what are you going to gift me by this interaction? And that puts it right somehow. It puts it in the right place somehow. And things just, it takes all the resistance away. Even if I say nothing, just by the very nature of putting myself into that place with them, it's all resistance is gone and it's so easy to move things. Now, can I do that in every case 100%? No, I wouldn't say so. I think the more personal it is to you, like my mother or, somebody really close, it's harder to do because you have certain things in your relationship. I still think it's possible to do, but I think you still want to be a transformative force for something and stand up for that at any moment, at any instance, ready. It's like you're on high alert for genius transformation all the time. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think that also is the miraculous.
I was just going to say, let's slide into the miraculous for a moment. Are we good or what? Yeah. So for you, the miraculous, Santari, how do you access what we would call the miraculous? What is it, and how do you get to it?
The miraculous. Well, I guess it will often be the unexpected. And I'm thinking of examples where we're working with a group of people, perhaps in a workshop, and maybe I'm working on them physically. And I remember times where I've just started to talk with my hands on that person, and they literally change facial expression, and you can see the shift occurring in them. Something in their state of consciousness, in their state of being, actually is somehow given the opportunity to become, rather than try to force something to happen. Being with a person, I think, is so important. You don't have an agenda, but you are just so with a person, so completely with that person, allowing something miraculous to occur, that the miraculous will show itself in ways that you won't think about. And I do remember these moments when people actually feel, and they will say they're in an altered state, and they will be in this wondrous daze of feeling that something has shifted and changed, and not being able particularly to articulate it, but to know that a shift has occurred. And I think part of our skill then is to be able to bring it into practical reality and talking about what has just happened. What is it that is so profoundly different? And to be able to almost like make that more of a reality than a possibility. So I think the miraculous is quite often a dance of getting people to accept that a shift has occurred, and this is indicating that something in their life has changed. Let's explore it together. Let's find out what it is. See where it will take you. And that's the conversation, I think, which quite often will have people go, yes, I accept it. Thank you.
Well, for me, transformation can have kind of steps to it, like step one, step two, next level, or this part or that part. And whereas miraculous transformation is all in a go, done. I think that's how I would define the difference in it. It's all in a go, done. There's no phased step into it. And I absolutely believe now, after 19 years of you and I being together and doing this work together, and I've seen enough now to say that people do not need to go through transformation step by step. I mean, you can if you want. Maybe it could be a little more gracious sometimes, but I don't know. Maybe it's harder to do step by step. I have seen the most incredible transformations in people, and I absolutely believe that at any point in time you can go from this graciously to this. So the miraculous to me has a bit of graciousness in it. It's not a struggle. It doesn't knock you off your feet necessarily, or it shouldn't anyways, I think. Maybe it does sometimes just by the very nature of the whopping shift that you go through, but I don't know. The miraculous has something beautiful built into it, almost like you were here, now you're here. And that takes over and imbues everything you need into your physicality. You have become that new. So, you know, if you're looking at like miraculous, as in heal your leg or something, I'm not quite talking about that. I'm talking about miraculous shifts from one state or level of being to another state or level of being, which is a whole new possibility of us. And I believe that you can go boom and be there. Me as a transformer, I have to believe that that's possible. If I don't believe that's possible, I'm mixing in the swimming space that's not possible, or that's hard to do, or whatever. So I have to literally supersede myself to get to that space of being able to allow for the miraculous. So I almost can't have any of my own thoughts and beliefs about anything. I have to get to such a vast place, almost like that gaze of the creator, the source, as I was talking about, and the understanding, the comprehension, and then by my gaze, by my presence, by my movement, my breath from the core of being, so it is made so. And then I just have to see the perfection of that unfolding.
I would say that that's also unexpected and unplanned for. I say when you are in that space of liberation, of being able to liberate things, then there aren't any thoughts going through your head. But you are so completely immersed in the power and the beauty of it that anything that you do is just going to be perfectly right.
Yeah, exactly. There is no, as you said, no expectation on my part, or no, oh, this is what you're becoming. I can't have that, because that would be me putting limits on it and boxes on it. I have to just breathe the space in which they can show up as something more than they've ever been, and what the universe, what the great vast intelligence of all wants them to become. And my breath from the place of the power of the core of being can liberate them into that becoming.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully everyone who's been listening to us will be liberated and change the miraculous
Let's
eyes.
do that, shall we? So there's 25 of us now in this group. So shall we just do that for you and I and everyone who's watching? So for all 25 of us.
And also anyone who is really aligned with everything that's wanting to change in their lives too.
And then, yes, that reaches out further to all those who stand in collective mastery. And then to all those in the whole planet and the planet itself and all beings everywhere. Oh, beautiful. Wow, that was lovely.
Another ecstatic performance.
Another ecstatic. I think this is leading us to one of the next videos. It might be the next one or the next two. Is on the power of ecstatic awe. So that just might be what we'll do tomorrow.
Okay.
In the meantime, everybody, find yourself walking as the power of the core of being, ready to pour your beautiful gaze of pure acceptance and the pure possibility of being onto everyone and every circumstance and every planet, every universe, every galaxy, every star, whatever it is for you. And you learn to walk as that. And you learn to play as that. And you just revel in the moments of that. So that would be my way of just wrapping this up and completing it. So, Santari, for you?
I think everything you just said is just perfect.
Brilliant. Okay. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Happy Easter still.
Go easy on the Easter eggs. Until the next time.
Bye.
Bye for now.